Hey, if you want to watch a shorter video where we talk about the same topic, there's a link in the description below. What's up, breathing people? Welcome back today. I'm joined by my wife, Brittany, and we're going to be talking about how to be attractive in a dating relationship, which is an interesting spin on being attractive. Because a lot of times we think about being attractive for the purpose of getting into a dating relationship.
Right.
This is how to remain attractive after you're already in it,
Right.
which I think is just kind of interesting to look at that, because I don't think it's something, like, reflecting on my own life, I don't think it's something I thought about while dating,
Yeah.
which is weird that I never thought about that, because
This specific.
like, how to remain attractive.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's something in our minds that say when we get into the dating relationship, we're good.
Yeah. You're like, oh, that part's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is such a weird thing, because I actually think it resurfaced after marriage.
Yes, it does. Because then you're like, oh, I actually still need to be attractive for
Yeah.
this person because we're in this for life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounded bad, but it wasn't.
Yeah. It's true, though.
Yeah.
It's a weird dynamic that, yeah, you don't think for some reason, and I was trying to figure that out before, we sat down to do this podcast, why that is. Why do we kind of like let go and not kind of take accountability of who we are and our attractiveness to that other person while dating?
I think it's because it's so easy to get caught up in everything else.
Okay. Yeah.
You're not thinking about that anymore. You were before because you're trying to get their attention, you're trying to get into a relationship, but then once you're in the relationship, you're just like, oh, well, now how do we navigate these problems? Where is this relationship going? Or is this getting serious?
Right.
Like, there's so many things that you're thinking about. You're not thinking about how can I be attractive anymore.
Yeah,
But
it's
then,
just kind of an avalanche of so many different dynamics going on simultaneously that we're not really prepared for.
right.
As much as we want to be prepared when we enter a dating relationship, we're never prepared because it's a new person.
Right.
It's a new dynamic. I guess you could have it not be that way if there was like a friendship established, but when you change that dynamic of the relationship from friendship to a dating relationship, it's gonna come with so many different
Yeah.
factors. So I
Yeah.
agree with you. I think that's probably it. There's just so many things going on that attractiveness is that thing that was our focus before.
Right.
And now we just have too many other things going on to kind of keep that in
Yes.
line after. Okay.
And just to go on just a little side rant for just a short bit. Wouldn't you agree that what we're going to talk about in just a bit applies though before you date?
Sure.
Like, isn't that like you might not have thought usually you end up in the dating relationship because you were physically attracted and for whatever character traits you were attracted enough to be like, okay, let's go further.
Right. Whatever
Right?
jived. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like you don't even think about it as much then unless you're trying to get the attention of the other person. So these things would still apply.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not like they're different before you're dating. It's just that you should be aware of it while you're dating. And if it goes further, like,
Right.
it's just a good thing to know to be an attractive person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of dynamics to this. I think 100%, if you have a focus on being an attractive person
Yeah.
before you get into a dating relationship, that's just good.
Yeah.
That's just good.
Those
And
habits
I
are
think
gonna
it would be
follow
good to
you.
define attractiveness,
Yeah.
because we think physical with attractiveness. Just the same way that sex and love and all of these other words have so many kind of connotations that we
Right.
go to immediately instead of the broader contexts that exist within that term.
Yeah.
I think attractiveness gets dumbed down to a lot of these physical, character-based attributes, but that
Yes.
attractiveness exists in so many other ways besides just those two.
Yeah. So I think I love it that you said that because I didn't think to talk about that. But attractiveness, yeah, usually we think of it as physical,
Mhm.
right? And then it's also usually like an emotional thing. If you're not thinking like, what am I doing to be attractive? It's usually like, oh, I'm attracted to that guy because he looks good.
Mhm.
And for some reason, I just like have a desire or an attraction to him, right? You're usually not able to pinpoint
Yeah.
this, and this. But
I would say
but those reasons,
Okay.
wait, let me finish. Those reasons are there if you take the time
yeah.
to realize why are you attracted.
Mhm.
And so I'm saying that because I think it is the same. So you might not, so like these things, some of the things that we'll talk about aren't physical. Like you can't change your physical attraction completely, right? Like you
Right.
can take care of yourself, be your best physical self, but like you can't change like your face or your body if
Beyond
you know
a certain point. Sure.
beyond a certain point, right? So like you kind of have that. And if you're doing your best with that, that's what you've got,
Yep.
right? But then there's a large array of things, character, I don't want to say character traits. I don't even know. Like, what would you call these things? There's an array of ways of being that are attractive.
Sure.
And I think that's what makes you attracted to other people. You just don't realize that.
Sure. I would say if I had to define attractiveness in what it's sort of been dumbed down, like, so what I was saying was physical and personality. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
those are the two factors that everybody attributes to attractiveness.
Right.
Like, oh, she has such a bubbly personality, or she has a lively
That's
personality,
true.
or he has such a strong personality, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the things with the physical that get put into that attractiveness context.
That's a good point.
But I would say that emotional and mental and relational and a lot of these other factors are hugely important when it comes to attractiveness, especially when it moves into a dating relationship.
Because now it
Yeah.
matters more. Like
Yeah.
those other things don't matter as much now.
Right. So I would agree with you that probably a lot of that attractiveness needs to be something that you're working on before a dating relationship, or it'll just be hard to start a new thing while you're in it.
That's very true.
So I agree with you that, yeah, a lot of these things probably should be taking place before the dating relationship, carried over into the dating relationship, or it probably won't happen.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I wasn't really working on sort of all aspects of my life when we started dating. So that's why I can't even think about
Yeah.
how did I perceive my attractiveness while we were dating.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't something I had thought about beforehand and carried into the dating relationship.
Yeah. It's not something I had thought about either.
But it would be so good, though, if we had, and I think it would have enriched a lot of our conversations that we were having, but maybe weren't having as successfully as we could have.
Right.
If I was already working on certain areas and assessing how you were doing in those areas based on what I was doing. You know, does that make sense?
Oh,
like
that
if I
makes
was
sense.
working on myself emotionally and then I was able to kind of like have emotional conversations with you.
It makes you more aware of not only yourself, like if you're working on these things, it makes you aware of where you're at, but it helps you navigate the relationship with the other person because you're thinking about those things, whereas they might not be.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think do it beforehand, then it can be carried over into that dating relationship without the just again, there's so many things going on when you first start dating. A lot of emotions, a lot of new. There's just a lot of new in a dating relationship that you probably won't have the wherewithal to start another new thing. It's just too much.
Yes.
It's too much.
And sorry to interrupt you.
No, go.
I just want to say the second, I feel like it's important to define attractiveness,
Yeah.
right? And then the second thing is, why are you seeking to be attractive? Which seems like a silly question. But I think the real meaning behind that, why we want to be attractive for the other person, is because we want that relationship to be meaningful. We want it to be long lasting.
Yeah.
We want it to work out, especially if we really like that other person. So we
Right.
want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward.
Right. That's the heart of what we're going for in a dating relationship.
Right.
So attractiveness just kind of feeds
Mm-hmm.
the lasting nature of the relationship.
Right.
And
And
you fall out of attraction with that person. That's really more of a way to say, oh, I fell out of love. It's
Mhm.
really, there's a lot of factors of attraction that have just kind of fallen off that have led to this lack of love.
Yes.
You know, because we've said this before, love is an emotion. Emotions are fleeting.
Mhm.
Emotions kind of come and go in a relationship. There has to be factors in place more than emotion
Yeah.
that keep you with that person.
Yeah.
And I think attractiveness is one of those that
Mhm.
kind of supersedes the kind of fleetingness of love.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
I think I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
So I can't say I don't want to say I agree, but
Right. Hey, that's good.
I
That's
think
good.
what you're saying is that since attractiveness it is important.
Yeah.
And it's something that will help you continue to have that feeling of love towards that person. Is that what you mean?
Kind of. What I'm saying is I think attractiveness is something that can be worked on by
Mhm.
both people in that relationship
Right.
that can supersede the emotion. Like, so the work that they're doing to remain attractive can supersede the emotion
Yes.
of love that is
Yes.
fleeting, that is up and down.
Yes.
So doing things to remain physically attractive
Mhm.
helps that person when they look at you
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah. Well, okay.
You
So
know?
what I was thinking, which goes right along with what you said,
All right.
is another reason why I think this topic is really important is because even if the relationship that you want to be attractive for doesn't work out,
Yeah.
this is so important to get down
Mm.
because, like we're talking about, how the emotion, that love feeling, can be fleeting.
Yeah.
If you can get that down, when you eventually find that right person that you want to marry, you want to stay attractive even going further into that marriage relationship because that feeling will kind of come and go.
Yeah.
And so if you can give your best always to that person, you're just caring for them really well.
Yeah.
And hopefully they do the same for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that betterment that we were pursuing to attract that person that might eventually become our spouse,
Mhm.
that person that we were just trying to attract to date, that can carry into that dating relationship and beyond.
Yes.
And should.
Mhm.
I think that's what we're trying to say,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That self-improving fire that we had when we were trying to attract a person,
Yeah.
that needs to continue
Yes.
in the dating relationship because it's going to have to continue into marriage. Like these things that, looking back, I didn't have these things in place, and it was much more difficult for me to implement them afterwards.
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm still implementing them.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah.
I think though, if someone could listen to this and start now
Yeah.
before they get into a dating relationship, it would be so helpful for them to be able to continue in these practices into dating, into marriage and beyond.
Yeah.
You know, I just think that fire that I have now where I want to be physically attractive. I want to be emotionally attractive. I want to be relationally attractive to you.
Right.
And you to me.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
I think like I have that now, and I'm still like you, I'm building on that now. But if I had that before we were even dating,
We'd be so much further along.
we'd
both
be so
of
much
us.
further along in that development.
Yeah.
So I think it's just it's a hack to get started before you're in that relationship,
Yes.
so that that attractiveness and always trying to remain attractive is just sort of built in to your mindset in the relationship.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you have to build in and see, this is another thing too. If it's there before you start dating, you don't have to introduce your partner to those things.
Yeah. And
it's already built into who you are
Yes.
in that relationship.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to say it shows that you care for that other person too. If you're doing all of this work for them.
Yeah.
This is really what it is. It's you're caring for them when you do this.
Well, I think that was one of the factors that was strongest in our relationship, was when you were praying for me before you even met me.
Yeah.
So there was work happening that was for me.
Yeah.
Prior to me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that was probably, we didn't have some of these other factors where we were trying to remain attractive for each other, but we had that. We had another basis that was really helpful in moving our relationship along, and that has carried into our marriage now.
Yeah.
So I think the things that we're talking about are things that you can implement early that will help you carry into your dating and future relationships. What's another one? So being the betterment that you were trying to go for before you started dating, carry that into your dating relationship. Don't lose that fire. Let's talk about this actually. Let's stick on this for 1 second, because I've seen this and I want to talk about it. I think a lot of people, when they start dating, get comfortable. This wasn't me. That's why when I was reflecting, I was just trying to think like, why didn't I think of these things, like how to remain attractive while we were dating? Because it wasn't comfort that made me stop. I just wasn't thinking about it in general.
Right.
But I've seen a lot of people kind of really lose the fire that they had to kind of stay in shape and get to the gym every day.
Okay, so you're talking about, because we just have to define this. So what we've kind of been talking about this whole time as a piece of being attractive is being like bettering yourself, being a better person, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Because like I feel like we have a lot of things in our head that we know we're gonna talk about. So I just wanted to define that one was the one we've been talking about, is like being better.
Yeah.
Whether it's physically, emotionally, relationally, knowledge-based, financially, whatever, everything, just kind of bettering yourself.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that self-improving fire.
Yeah.
Bringing that into the dating relationship, all that. I think
you had said, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You had said that you've seen a lot of people lose, and then I interrupted you.
Yeah. They've lost that fire when they've gotten into their dating relationships. Like once they got the guy, once they got the girl, they lose the fire of improving themselves.
Yeah.
And I've seen that really take a toll on relationships. Maybe it doesn't destroy the relationship. Maybe those people get married. Maybe they have a great life.
Right.
But it definitely takes a toll.
Yeah.
Where I don't see the attraction in that person's eyes like they had at the beginning of the relationship.
Yeah.
When they looked at that person and they were like, dang, she takes care of herself.
Yeah.
Dang, he takes care of himself.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, I just love the fire behind the way that he works.
Right.
Wow, I really like the way that she is able to just relate to people. Like, I love her energy when we're in groups of people.
Yeah. And why do you think that changes? Like, I have a couple ideas. I guess it could be multiple things.
I think if it almost goes back to some of the conversations we've had on goals versus systems. So, like, goals, when you reach that goal, you have to develop a new goal or it's done.
If all of that was for getting into that relationship,
Yes.
then it kind of loses
It's done
its
now.
fire.
What else do you have if you so this is the thing. That's why I love this concept of goals versus systems, because we will rise to the level of our goals and we will fall to the level of our systems. I have
Yeah.
no idea who said that. It gets said all over the place, but I think it's a great quote.
Yeah.
And I just love the concept of having goals. I think they're great to have, but if you have no systems that are foundational to how you're going to live your life,
Yes.
you're going to end whatever pursuit you had when that goal is achieved.
Right.
So I think a lot of people have goals for their relationships, but not systems on how to maintain them.
Yeah. So it's almost like instead of having the goal of I'm bettering myself to get into this relationship, it's like I want to better myself so that I am the best person that I can be for whoever I spend the rest of my life with.
Yeah.
Because then, I mean, I guess that's like a mindset
Yeah. There's no end date
that doesn't
attached to it.
end, right?
Right.
Because you're going to continue to do it until you find that person, and then you're going to continue to do it after you found that person, because your mindset was I want to be the best person I can be for this person.
Right. Right. Not to find this person, not to date,
Not to be with this person, not to get married.
Right.
It's for this person.
Yeah.
That I don't even know yet, or I don't even know if this is the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the goals that we have end dates, and they aren't attached to lifelong pursuits. Like, hopefully when we decide to be healthy, that's a lifelong decision.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we're filming this podcast on January 1st.
Yes.
And so our New Year's resolution is to continue
Yeah.
in what we're already doing.
Yeah.
A lot of people will start on January 1st a new diet, or they'll start a new membership, or they'll start these things that have goals attached to them. The problem is a lot of them haven't actually made decisions. They're relying on external factors instead of decisions to become something new, to become something more, or become
Right.
something better. And they haven't attached. I see. That's why the concept, like you're talking about, of saying I'm going to be better for the person that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, is such a deep, lasting
Yeah.
change, a deep,
Yes.
lasting system,
Right.
because you have the why, because I want to be the best version of myself for someone else.
Yeah.
So it's not selfish.
Yeah.
It actually has like a motivating, selfless kind of
And that is
factor
attractive.
to it. Yeah. And
That's what's attractive about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Anyways, we can go down the systems rabbit hole, but I think wanting to become something more than getting something
Yeah.
is always a better route to take. So if you want to become something for another person that you're in a dating relationship with, that is always going to be more effective than becoming something for getting something.
Yeah.
Like
for getting there.
getting that person, or getting a dating relationship, or
Right.
getting whatever it is, companionship.
Yeah.
Right? There's so many other factors that people could go for to get
Right.
that will have end dates and that won't last.
I like that. That makes sense. That's probably the case
Yeah. So
most of the time.
I'm guessing that was a long way of saying maybe that's why people get comfortable and stop trying to stay attractive.
Right.
They stop trying to work on themselves because they had goals, or they had things that they desired to get more than what they desired to be
Right.
and become, or what they wanted to do
Right.
for someone else.
Yeah.
And a lot of those could be motivating factors. So yes, I think the best one is the selfless one where you want to become something for another person.
Mhm.
That doesn't have to be the sustaining factor though. It could be for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to be the best version of me for me.
And that's still that's a long, lifelong
Yeah.
mindset.
It's still gonna help you out in any
Yeah.
relationship because a better version of you is a better version of the person for your partner.
Right.
You know,
Right.
for whoever you're in relationship with, dating or married,
Yes.
you being the best that you can be is very helpful.
Yeah. That's just as healthy of a mindset because that's what the people around you need and
Yeah.
will be blessed by is the best version of you.
Best
So,
version of you. So don't get comfortable.
right.
I think that would be my other tip in how to stay attractive while dating is don't get comfortable.
And explain what you mean.
Don't get comfortable in now that you have gotten what you wanted.
Right.
I got the relationship. I got the date.
Yeah.
He really likes me. We hang out a lot. We're really deepening our relationship. So now I can let go.
Right. Because what does that say? You know, letting go is almost like saying you don't get my best anymore.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
we don't
you
think in
can-
those terms.
we don't think in those terms, but that's really what it is. It's
Mhm.
like you don't get my best anymore. I'm gonna kind of give you the crappy side now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because we didn't have that self-interest before we started dating,
Mhm.
like we said. Maybe it wasn't in place before, and that's why people stop once they date
Right.
because they feel like that person likes them enough that they're not going
Right.
to leave. So now I can actually give you my true self, which is I'm not that self-interested. I don't care for myself that much.
Right.
I'm totally good with letting myself go.
Right. Which is, yeah. Well, it's hard because you do need to be yourself.
Yeah.
But you also do need to care for yourself.
Yeah.
For yourself and for that other person.
Have to.
And so it's something to grow in, but you got to be honest. Maybe that is a conversation you have to have.
Yeah.
But it leads me to like two other things. So I think, the one we've been talking about is like be willing to grow, right? Like don't lose your fire to better yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And there's two that are separate and distinct, but go along with that. And that is thinking. I think something that makes somebody attractive is thinking of others. That's one. And then being a safe person. And how I see those going along with bettering yourself is a lot of bettering yourself is for that other person. It's for you, but that other person. And so when you think about others, and especially if you are thinking about that person
Yeah.
and caring about them, that's an attractive trait because that person will catch on.
Mhm.
Like if you, and this is so easy to do in a relationship. Okay.
She thinks about others too. Thank you, Siri.
Good job, Watch.
Yeah.
But when we think about others, it's attractive to other people because you're not consumed with yourself
Mhm.
and everything that you want and you need and how you feel and da-da-da and da-da-da, which is good to be aware of yourself. But if you're never aware of the other person,
Yeah.
that's not an attractive trait.
Right. Right.
And usually you might not think of it, but you're attracted to another person because they take the time to like care about you.
Mm. Yeah.
And so you
Yep.
want to keep that going in a relationship that you want. If you want the relationship to last, you need to be somebody who thinks about them.
Mhm.
And it's not you need to think about them probably more than others, right? If you want it to be a lasting relationship in a more intimate way. But just practicing that in general, like just thinking of other people and not always only be hyper focused on yourself is a really attractive trait.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then along with being Now I can't remember how I tied in safety with that, but being a safe person is also very attractive.
That's good on its own.
It's good on its own.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you find out you can't trust the person that you're dating, for me, I'm done.
Right. And it only takes small happenings, small occurrences to lose that trust.
Yes.
Or to weaken that trust.
Yeah.
And part of safety, and we've talked about this in the past as well, is when that person makes declarations of what to them is safe, and we either just completely deny that and do what we want to do, or we find ways to navigate around those declarations. And they could be subtle declarations. They don't have to be, I don't want to do this. I don't like this. They can be something that we really need to be aware of and to feel with that other person, so that every move that we make, when we see ourselves starting to navigate around something that is a no-go zone for somebody else in that relationship, trust would be to back off when they're like, hey, what are we? No. You know, and if we continue, then we've broken trust. You know, if we're able to back off, that's where we will actually create trust.
Yes.
It's not, trust isn't created because we say so. Trust is created when we're
demonstrated.
It's demonstrated. When we're faced with those things and we show ourselves to be trustworthy.
Yes.
That's when we will develop trust in that relationship. And to your point, be safe.
Yes.
That's how we'll develop safety in the relationship, because they know that they can trust us.
Yeah.
And we will back off when we know that it's violating something that is unsafe to that person.
Yeah. And that's such a big deal.
Yeah.
It's such a big deal. And now I'm
and I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
And it's attractive.
Yes, it's very attractive.
Very attractive when we're able to maintain safety in the relationship, because
you don't know it's attractive until it's broken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll just say this, and this is something that might be in people's dating relationship. Hopefully it's not until your marriage relationship, but your sex life. And I'll just speak to it as a married person. Safety is what makes your sex healthy or not.
Yes.
Safety is what will make your sex meaningful or not. And that's a huge factor in the enjoyment of those sexual encounters. Spoken from experience, safety will kill your sex life or it will greatly improve it. So maybe you're waiting till marriage to have sex. Great.
Practice safety now.
Practice safety now, because that will carry into how great or not great. I was trying to think of like some better way to describe it.
Not great.
Well, I actually think that's a huge factor in why there's not a lot of sex sometimes in marriage, is because people just don't feel safe enough to have it.
Yep.
And like we're saying, safety is attractive. So if a person's not attractive and doesn't want to have sex with you, that's probably because they don't feel safe.
Yeah.
And this is subtle, guys. This is something where it's not just violence. Like, it's not just abuse.
And
this is something that completely can be much, much more intimate and much more subtle than those kind of overt ways of being unsafe.
And I remember now how like they're connected, right?
Okay.
Thinking of others and safety, right?
Yeah.
Because of the subtleness of it.
Okay.
So if you lack the ability to think about the person that you're dating, you're probably not going to be a safe person.
Yeah.
Because it can be as subtle as you have an intimate conversation.
Yeah.
Things are spoken that are just kind of assumed, even though assumptions are not always good to have if they're not agreed upon. But it might just be assumed that this was just between you and me.
Yeah.
But then if you aren't thinking and caring for that person's emotions and that relationship, and you just go out and go talk to your friends about it, and that other person finds out, you majorly broke their trust.
Yep.
That was not a safe thing to do.
Yeah.
And they are going to think twice about having a conversation like that again with you.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. Like, you didn't do anything major. You just said some words that were spoken in a safe place.
Exactly.
And they're not safe anymore.
Exactly. Yep.
And so really caring for that person, thinking about that person is going to help you make choices that are safe.
Right. That develop that sense. They have to feel safe when they're around you. And if they know you're having conversations about them when they're not there, they're not going to feel safe. I can't talk around you. I can't exist around you because I don't know what you're going to take from this. I don't know who you're going to go to with this. I don't. So now I'm walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
And that's not safe.
That's not going to develop intimacy.
No. So I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So think about others, be a safe person.
Yeah.
Again, how are you thinking about this before you get into that dating relationship? I think all of the things that we talk about of how to remain attractive is something that you can think about now before you get into that dating relationship, and that will help you remain attractive in those areas while in it.
Yes.
I think that's huge.
And it's
huge.
Yeah, there's just so many reasons why it's important, because even, this is another little side thing, but even while you're in a dating relationship and that doesn't work out, let's just say, like, people, if there's other people in your group that are interested in you, they're going to notice those things too. Right? Like, you being a safe person, that's so attractive. People are going to notice that.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about the people in your life, you can point out safe people. Yeah. Because you can just be like, oh, I would never tell that person that. Well, because they're not a safe person.
Right.
Like, in any relationship, you know? So just practicing that, you're going to be attractive to, like, a lot more people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold this. I have to pee.
Okay.
All right. And we're back. One thing that I was thinking about while I was peeing was going along with thinking about the other person, and being safe. I think this could factor into that. Is sometimes we lower the levels in our relationships of our respect, our admiration. What other factors? Just kind of the things that made
Appreciation.
Appreciation. Yeah. Like, that drew us to that person originally.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that we could do to really think about others and to remain safe is make sure that we're practicing appreciating, that we're practicing respect. Even if it seems awkward and not in context with maybe whatever situation is going on, practicing these things in just small ways goes a long way in maintaining your attractiveness to that other person in the relationship. Thinking about them is attractive. Thinking about how you're going to respect them, especially if it's a girl, think about how she's going to respect a guy. That's super attractive to him. And then for both, men and women, appreciating the things about that person that drew you to them originally, and keep finding those things in the dating relationship. Yeah. So while you're dating, the things that you appreciated about that person that drew you to them, appreciate those things through the relationship.
I love that so much, because it's the practicing that's going to help you think of that person. So it's hard sometimes to think about another person, because you do have a lot of stuff going on in your own head and your own life, and it's hard. But if you practice respecting that person, you practice appreciating that person, it will become a thought process, and you'll actually think of them more.
Yeah.
I always talk to my kids about this, like when they don't feel a certain way or when they don't think a certain way, I'm like, that's okay. You can't help that, but practice.
Yeah.
I'm always like, practice these things.
Right.
Like it's practice that's going to make it normal. And it's going back to what we're talking about, it's going to make it normal for you to think of that person.
Yep.
You're going to see it easier because you're looking for it. You're practicing respect. You're practicing admiring that person
Yeah.
and appreciating that person. So you're going to be like, wow, I really like it when he does that.
Mhm.
And wow, he's really good at that. Or I thank you for doing that. I really appreciate when you do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just going to help you in general.
Right. And it's going to make, again, going back to the heart of this whole thing, why we're saying this, why do you want to remain attractive? Because it'll be a more meaningful relationship.
Yeah.
And it probably will last longer.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. We all want meaningful relationships and we want them to last.
Yeah. Mhm.
If you don't,
That's weird.
you're not dating. Let's be honest, you're not dating. But if you want that, these are the practices
Yeah.
that will maintain that.
Yeah.
100%. Like just being able to appreciate something about that person will push out those thoughts
Mhm.
of what you don't
Yes.
appreciate about that person or what you don't admire or what you
Mhm.
don't respect. I'm not saying to not be honest with the person that you're in a relationship with, especially while you're dating.
Yes.
But you do need to look and see, am I just dwelling on these thoughts of what I don't like about that person? And could I put in this practice of appreciating them more?
Yeah.
And even if it's just a test, even if you just gave it a week
Yeah.
of you trying to find things that you appreciate or that
Mhm.
you admire or that you respect about the person that you're in a dating relationship with, try that and just at least test your own mind
Yeah.
to see if it's correct
Yeah.
about maybe what you don't like.
Right.
At least give time, at least give opportunity for this practice to take effect in shifting maybe your mind to actually seeing that person differently.
And you're going to get the best out of that person, and they are going to be attracted to you when you show them appreciation and respect.
Yeah.
Because nobody likes to be torn down.
Yeah.
And so if all that comes out of your mouth is, ugh, like you disappointed me again. Ugh, you're not good
Yeah.
enough. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. That person's not going to give you their best.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be attractive to them. And so you're really just kicking yourself.
Yeah.
And
There's a lot of cultures that still do this where they give some sort of gift or dowry or whatever it is. I think dowry might be the girl to the guy, right?
yeah, the dad will give.
The dad of the
Yeah.
girl will give something to the guy to marry his daughter. That's not what I'm talking about. There's a lot of times where the guy will gift to the family of the girl that he wants to marry
Yeah.
something
I like that better.
kind of as an offering. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of as an offering for her hand in marriage.
Yeah.
And I've heard this, I don't know if this was like a kind of, fable or something, just kind of a what do you call it? Where like a Chinese proverb or,
Yeah, yeah.
something along those lines. But it, long story short, it basically was like this guy way over gifted for a girl that was not of any special social status. And, this was so much of what he actually had to give for her. And so it was questioned why he was giving so much.
Yeah.
And this wasn't money, this was like livestock and
Right.
things like that. And the response was he was giving for the wife that he wanted her
To become.
to become. Yeah.
And let me just say for those guys out there, this is true. Like, it's hard because it's probably it's really important to practice while you're dating, but more important once you're married. But to treat her so well. And I think it goes for the other way around for guys too. Like when a girl treats a guy really well.
Mhm.
I mean, you'll have to tell me if that's true, but I know it's true for a girl. Like if you believe in her and you just love her and care for her and listen to her and let her like grow and learn, she's going to become so much greater than like you ever imagined.
Right.
But if you nitpick and put her down and tell her how bad she did that and this and how she always does it bad and how she's going to do it bad, you are going to diminish her and she will not thrive. She'll not thrive.
She'll not be
She
who
will be,
you want them
yeah.
to be.
She's going to hide from you.
Right.
She's not going
Now-
to, she's going to be too afraid to try.
Right. We're saying let's make it more general. I think any time that we diminish the person opposite to us in a dating relationship, they will become the thing that we
Diminish
them too.
Yep.
That's 100% what happens in so many relationships
Mhm.
is like, why can't you be this? Or why aren't you doing this? And they're just going to fall to that level
Yeah.
of what you established. You think you're setting a standard, but you're just setting just a baseline
Yeah.
for what they can actually grow past.
Yeah.
Like if you set standards, that means that you're going to have to bring value to their life
Yeah.
so that they can grow past the ceiling that they're at right
Yes.
now to the standard that you're actually setting.
Yes.
You're not setting standards when you just constantly are
Yeah.
on them about what they're not
You're just cutting
doing
their
now.
legs off.
Yeah,
That's how I
exactly.
view it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want going back to that story, you want a 10 cow wife.
Yeah.
This guy did not have 10 cows to give, but he
Yeah.
gave that for the wife that he
Yeah.
wanted her to become, and he felt she was worth.
Yeah.
And
Because then she's thinking, wow, like he thinks I can do that. How
Yes.
empowering is that?
super.
For a guy or a girl, for the other person to be like, I see you as this.
Yeah.
That person's like, oh, yeah, I want to be that.
Yeah.
And they'll rise to the occasion.
I think so. And this kind of goes along with another thing that I think is just a helpful tool to have in your arsenal in a dating relationship, but I think also will make you more attractive to the person you're in a relationship with. And that's not developing any expectations of them or of the relationship unless you have agreed that these are the expectations of them or of the relationship.
Yeah, that you both have to agree on that. That has to be a
Like-
conversation.
These expectations that you might have in your head, if they are not agreed upon with the other person,
Mm-hmm.
they don't exist.
Yeah.
And I think this is just a
That
fundamental.
goes right along with what you said before.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think this is a fundamental factor in relationships in general. Anytime you have any expectations in your relationships, it could be dating or it could be with your coworker.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an expectation of them that hasn't been communicated and they haven't agreed upon, it is not a real
Yes.
expectation. And most of us, especially as the dating relationship goes on and gets longer, and we're with that person for more time, naturally, we will develop expectations of that person.
Right.
Well, he did it this time or she did it this time, so it'll happen again.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
if that's really just who that person is.
Right.
Or it could have just been a one-off that you now have established an expectation for that isn't real
Yes.
because you haven't said, hey, I really appreciate when you hold the door open for me.
Yeah.
Hey, I really appreciate when you
a
start the
good
car
example.
early so that it's warm when I get in it.
Oh, I love that. That's
You
such
know?
a good, yeah.
You have to communicate with that person that I appreciate certain things that you now want to expect of them.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
one, they'll be like, "Oh, cool. I didn't know that like meant so much to you. Like I could totally do that. That's
Yeah.
easy. I
Mhm.
can totally start the car. I can totally open the door for you. I can
And it will
totally."
help you actually appreciate them too,
Yeah.
because you'll be like, "Oh, I do actually appreciate that."
Right.
Yeah.
And I love coming from that way too, as opposed to why don't you? Right? And
Yeah.
it goes back to diminishing. You
Yeah.
could tell the person what you want
Yes.
and what your expectation of them is
Mhm.
through appreciation. You don't
Yeah.
have to berate them. You don't have to nag. You don't have to
Mhm.
do any of these kind of negative, diminishing uh uh statements or enter into these types of conversations just to get your point across of what you expect. You can do it in a positive way
Yeah.
where you're still raising the meaningfulness
Mhm.
in your relationship with that other person
Yeah.
by saying, "Man, I appreciate this." And they're like, "Okay, I didn't know it meant a lot to you, but
Yeah.
that's cool."
Yeah.
It's something I kind of expect you to do always. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Is that something that you would be capable of doing?
Right.
You're clarifying that that's
Yeah.
a real expectation. They're like, "Yeah, I did just expect to continue
Right.
doing that for you."
Right.
You know?
Yeah, like asking them, could you continue to do this?
Yeah, could you continue to do
Yeah.
this? Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. And now
That's
you've
so
clarified that
powerful.
expectation and you know it's real now.
Mhm.
It's not real until you've agreed upon it though.
Yes.
And that's something I'm learning right now and we're learning in our
Mhm.
relationship. And it's so helpful.
'Cause then you can't get mad, like, I think a lot
You
of
can still get
times
mad.
well, I think a lot of times relationships, like you're saying, I never thought of it this way, but relationships can kinda get a little, funky because you had that expectation that you didn't communicate, and then you're disappointed when they fail you.
Right.
But they didn't fail you. They didn't know.
Yeah, they didn't know.
They didn't know that you wanted and expected them to do that. So
Yeah.
now you're disappointed and they have to deal with that disappointment when they didn't even know
Yeah,
or
they didn't know.
agree to doing that for
Yep.
you.
Yep.
And so I love that. Yeah. And as you're talking, like I'm laughing because this is so important to learn for when you get married.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, as we're like learning and growing and still trying to better ourselves, this stuff is so much more, I don't want to say more important, but it's so important in marriage when you are going to stay with that person.
Right.
So
Right.
practicing these things now and getting good at them while you're dating
Mhm.
will just make you so attractive.
Yeah, because in a
And you're-
dating relationship, you could leave that person for
Mhm.
not meeting expectations.
Right.
In marriage, I'm sorry, that's not a good reason to
No.
leave somebody, especially if you have kids already, especially if there's all these
Yeah.
other things. It's such a selfish reason
Mhm.
to leave someone over
Yeah.
because they didn't meet an expectation, especially if you weren't good at communicating.
Right.
If that's actually what's going on and you didn't tell them
Yeah.
that that was an expectation and they agreed to do it.
Right. Mhm.
Now it's on you.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of excuse it in a dating relationship, but you shouldn't.
Yeah.
That's what you're
Mhm.
saying.
Mhm.
Don't excuse it in a dating relationship. Practice, again,
Yes.
practice clarifying expectations with that person you're in a relationship with
Right.
so that there can be agreed upon expectations that if they're not met, now at least you have some baseline to go to that person about that's not out of the blue. That's not this
Right.
random thing that you're bringing to them. No, we
Right.
talked about this. I
Mhm.
really expect you to do this.
Yes.
And when you don't, it makes me feel unsafe.
Yeah.
When
yeah.
you don't, it really makes me feel like you don't care about me.
Right. Right. And then that gives them opportunity to disagree or what,
Right.
to share their side as well, which is important.
Yeah.
And yeah, so is there any more on that? Because I have a couple more.
No, go.
Okay. So this goes, it's all similar theme here,
Sure.
but be willing to continue to grow. Be willing to grow, right? So we talked about like bettering yourself,
Mhm.
right? But this is a little bit different in just that I think this is attractive in somebody who is just willing to become a better person, but I view that as growing. So like maybe they notice something.
Like becoming different than maybe who they were.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So
and that is different than bettering who you are.
yes.
Because growing can be, I'm developing myself to become something different than I already was.
Right. Because you
Does that make sense? So there's a little bit of a you can just continue getting better at who you are,
yes.
or you can grow and be different
yes.
than who you were.
Yes. Because
Yeah.
you can learn things that
So
you didn't.
there is a major difference.
There's
there.
a difference.
Yeah.
Because for me, being willing to grow has a little bit of like humility in it,
Yeah.
right? You're able to, whether somebody presents it to you or you notice it yourself, but for an example's sake, let's just say somebody points out to you something in your life that isn't that great, and you're willing to hear it out and assess, is this true or not, and then grow and like make changes, get help, like whatever it is, but you're willing to grow. That's so attractive, I think, especially for the person that you're dating, for them to see, oh wow, like when I said this, hopefully you said it in a kind way, which will lead to the next one that I have. But that person listened, they heard it and had some, introspection. I always say that word wrong. Was that right?
That was right.
And then they assess like, oh, I do need to grow in this area.
Yeah.
I think that that's very attractive.
Sure.
Because it's so unattractive if someone isn't willing.
Yes.
Like if they're like, no, like I'm fine the way I am.
Right.
Like don't give me advice. Like that's not attractive at all.
Right.
It's attractive for somebody to be like, oh, maybe I should grow in that area. Or maybe they're like, that's not good advice and I don't need that right now, But just being that willingness to grow is really attractive.
And that's such a good test. What you're talking about with, would I find this attractive, is a great filter to kind of put all of your questions on, is this attractive or not, through.
Yeah.
Like if a person was unwilling to grow, I'd find that so unattractive.
Yeah.
So you should be willing to grow.
Yeah.
That's just the way to kind of put it through. What would I not like this? Okay, I need to do this.
That's so true.
What was the last one that you had?
Oh, the other one was be kind.
Right.
And the way I was thinking about this, I know we've talked about this a lot before, but really somebody who is able to be honest with you in a loving way.
Yeah.
I think that that's very attractive. Having somebody who you can trust to tell you the truth, to be honest, but does it in a loving way because they care for you. They think about you and they're a safe person. Right. So maybe that be kind is kind of nestled into the be safe and think of others.
I think it kind of brings together all of those things in how they communicate to you.
Yes.
Especially when it's hard.
Yes.
Especially when it's a conversation, which you're going to have hard conversations.
Mm-hmm.
It's a relationship.
Yes.
So how are they able to communicate when the conversation is hard?
Yeah.
Is it kind?
Yeah.
That's super attractive.
It's very
Because you know
attractive.
what? Again, no one wants someone to diminish you in order to get their point across.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's what a lot of these hard conversations will reveal.
Yeah.
Is that person just trying to win?
Yeah.
Or is that person trying to be kind not for a manipulation tool, but for I care about you and I care about this relationship and I care about our growth and I care about, all of these things. So I will speak in this way because it'll facilitate a better outcome to this hard conversation.
And you're going to have a lot of conversations like that.
A lot.
If you want to actually grow closer.
Yeah.
You're going to have hard conversations. And so if you can't be kind in them,
it's not good.
Mm-mm.
Not good. I think all of these things, it's interesting how all of them have kind of flowed.
Yeah.
one to the other, because a lot of these things that we're talking about are, again, you can filter it through what you would find attractive in another person and just point it back at yourself and then do those things
Yeah.
before and then in a dating relationship. Help those to continue through your dating
Right.
relationship, and you will have a more meaningful and lasting
Yeah.
dating period with that person, no
Mhm.
matter if it works out or
Yeah.
not.
You're practicing valuable skills.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll be a person, even if even if you're not right for that person that you're in a dating relationship with, like, y that person will leave that relationship and say, "Yeah, he was great. Yeah, she
Yes.
was great." Like, we weren't right for each other, and we kinda figured that out through
Right.
the relationship, but they were great.
Yes.
That's who
Yeah.
you want. There's so many horror stories that people have leaving
Mhm.
relationships that I'm just like, that stinks."
Yeah.
Because that person's gonna get into their next dating relationship, and if they haven't made monumental changes to how they're entering and
Yeah.
existing in those relationships, it's gonna be the same thing
Right.
over and over and
Right.
over again.
It's
So
so true.
you wanna be a person that enters, remains attractive for the purpose of a meaningful, lasting relationship, regardless of the outcome.
Yes.
I think that's just a good way to live life.
Yep.
How do you want to be known to the person you're in relationship with and after,
Yeah.
you know? And to everyone else that you've touched, everyone
I
else
love
that
that.
you've kind of, been in their lives. It's a good way to just live in
Yeah,
general.
it's so true. Yeah, because you can be attractive before, during, and even after that relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having that kind conversation to end the relationship, still gonna bring hurt, but like you can be attractive in it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
sure.
Like, uh,
Sure.
yeah.
So this has been cool. I like this conversation because I don't think it's talked about enough. I know I never had anyone
Yeah.
talk to me
I
about
don't think I
this.
ever heard a conversation like
No,
this
because you
before.
no, because you just talk about like how can you be physically um I don't know, more attractive to get a girl.
Yeah.
Or girls are like, "Oh, it's personality is such a huge factor
Yeah.
in attractiveness." And so guys are like, "I got to have a big personality and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
work on that." But it's never a conversation of, "So what happens when you get into that
Yeah.
relationship?
Like, how do
What
you keep that
happens?"
going?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think this is the thing that, we can at least put in the internet sphere
Yeah.
and hope that a couple people really glean some of this
Mhm.
information now.
Yes.
Hopefully before they're in a dating relationship. If you're in a dating relationship, start now.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
earlier the
The
better
earlier the
to really
better.
start implementing this stuff to create meaningful,
Yeah.
lasting relationships.
I have 2 more questions.
Okay.
They're not long. They're
Okay.
just like little like cherries on top.
All
Okay.
right.
What would you say any extra any extra tips or skills for a guy trying to be attractive specifically for a girl? Because I know these are like the
How
main
would how
ones.
would like a guy remain attractive for a girl?
Um,
Or do you mean like
how does a no, okay, sorry, I asked it
other
wrong.
way
It's the
around?
other way around.
Okay.
How would a girl
Because I'm like, oh crap.
I'm the one who will
I
answer
don't
that.
know how to remain attractive for you.
I'll answer that one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so no, the other way around. So how would a girl stay attractive for a guy in a dating
Yeah.
relationship?
I mean,
Anything on top of that, like specifically geared towards a girl.
yeah. I know. I think like girls underestimate just continuing in the things that made them attractive to the guy before they started dating. Don't lose that fire.
Okay. That's like the
Like if you
main.
had goals for yourself, if you had systems in place for yourself to kind of make you somebody that's attractive,
Yeah.
don't lose that.
Yeah.
That's it. I would just say that fire that you had to go to the gym and work out, that fire that you had to
Right.
eat healthy, that fire that you had to like constantly be a reader and a learner
Yeah.
and like want to accomplish things in your life,
Mhm.
you know, kind of having a little bit of spunk in that way. Like,
Right.
I'm going to do this with my life and I'm going
Yeah.
to, don't lose that
Right.
because you have a guy now.
Yes.
I think that's unattractive when girls sort of lose themselves to the relationship.
Yes. So if the guy is trying to put water on that fire, he's not for you.
I don't think
Because
so.
a guy that actually cares about you
I don't think so.
wants you
I
to
think
continue to stay like
Yeah, I think
that.
a lot of times guys that put water on that fire are insecure.
Yeah.
I don't know if they necessarily don't want that relationship to work out. I just think they're too insecure and maybe your fire um
Makes them feel insecure.
yeah, just makes them feel like less than.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think for a guy that kind of has his act together
Yes.
and wants to be attractive to girls, um, will love that
Yeah.
about you,
Yeah.
you know?
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a good tip. Okay. So mine is not as deep as yours. Mine's kind of just like a fun one, but for I do not think it's attractive when a guy takes himself like way too seriously. And what I
Mm.
mean by that is like they have a hard time even like having fun or like they just take everything seriously about
Yeah.
themselves.
Okay.
Like that's not attractive. Like you can be like a motivated, bettering yourself. You can be all those things, but if you take everything seriously and you're just like I am so important or
Yeah.
something like you just can't just let some things go, like I don't think that that's attractive.
Cool.
Hopefully I'm explaining that well.
No,
But yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's great because there's a lot of terrible advice on the internet for getting girls that is how to be like this high level, motivated, stoic man.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I've never seen that work
Yeah.
in a lot of relationships. You might get some low level,
Right.
insecure girls.
Because a girl knows that you're human and we want the best for you and we
Right.
want you to pursue that. But like if you
Right.
like mess up or like
And you're not
it's-
asking for men to be women.
No.
See, that's
no.
that's the thing too. That's why I do really love that tip because you're just saying it's okay to let go sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
With me.
Yeah.
I'm a safe person and it would be meaningful and attractive if in the relationship you kind of show me that side of you
Yeah.
that doesn't have to be the achiever.
Right.
That doesn't have to be the guy that will provide for me, that will protect
Right.
me, that will do all of these things for me. Just have fun together.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think those are great.
That's
All
it.
right. Thanks everybody for watching, listening, viewing. I pray that this was helpful because I wish I had it when we were starting out in our dating relationship. There's so many of these conversations that I wish I had before we started dating because we're still married. We've been married for 11 years. We're doing great. But if you can put these into place now, it'll help you so much for the rest of your dating relationships, marriage relationships. So don't wait on these things. Don't sleep on these things because this will help you now.
Mhm.
So I hope this was helpful. I hope that you do implement some of these things. We will see you on the next episode. We love you all. Goodbye.